Have you ever looked at your team and wondered why one person is firing on all cylinders while another, just as talented, is, well, just not? Today, we're cracking open the manager's toolkit to understand what truly drives people at work, and by the end, you'll have 4 powerful frameworks to help unlock your team's potential.
So let's start with a classic problem. Picture this. You've got an employee who is incredibly talented, a real star on paper, but their performance? It's just not matching their ability. They're missing deadlines, their work is just okay. What is going on? What's the missing piece of the puzzle here?
Well, here's our first big clue. Performance isn't just about one thing. It's actually a function of 3 key ingredients: their ability, their environment, and their motivation. Now, if you know your star employee has the ability and you think the environment is okay, then the spotlight turns directly onto motivation. To really understand motivation, we're going to look at 4 major theories. You can think of them like 4 different keys on a ring. Each one unlocks a different part of the puzzle and helps you diagnose what's really driving or stalling your team.
Okay, our first key is expectancy theory. At its core, this theory assumes that we're all pretty rational people. Before we dive into a project and give it our all, we're doing a quick cost-benefit analysis in our heads. We're asking, if I put in the work, is the payoff going to be worth it? If the answer seems like a no, our motivation just isn't going to be there. And that mental calculation really breaks down to 3 key questions. First, there's expectancy. If I really try hard, will I actually be able to perform well? Then comes instrumentality. Okay, if I do perform well, can I trust that I'll actually get a reward for it? And finally, there's valence. Do I even care about that reward? I mean, a bonus that's just a gift card to a restaurant you hate isn't much of a motivator, is it? If the answer to any one of these is shaky, the whole chain falls apart and motivation plummets.
Expectancy theory is a fantastic starting point, but it kind of assumes we're all operating in a vacuum. It misses a huge piece of human nature, our sense of fairness. It's not just about what we get. It's about what we get compared to everyone else. So what happens when you feel like you're getting the short end of the stick?
And that brings us to our second key, equity theory. This one is all about social comparison. We are constantly, almost subconsciously, looking around at our coworkers and asking, is this fair? If we perceive an imbalance, it can be a massive demotivator, way more powerful than you might think.
So here's the mental math we're all doing. We take our outcomes, things like our salary, benefits, and recognition, and we weigh them against our inputs, our hard work, our experience, our skills. Then we look at someone else, a referent other, and we compare our ratio to theirs. If our ratio feels a lot worse than our coworkers, we feel that sense of inequity, and that's when the trouble starts.
So what do we do when things feel unfair? Well, as you can see here, we've got a few options, and honestly, none of them are good for the company. We might just start putting in less effort to try and balance the scales ourselves. Or we might go ask for a raise. Sometimes we even start rationalizing it in our heads, telling ourselves things like, well, their job isn't as demanding as mine anyway. And of course, if it gets bad enough, the best people will just walk out the door.
All right, so we've got the rational calculation and we've got the social comparison. What else is there? Well, sometimes motivation is as simple as having a clear target to shoot for. And that's our third key, goal-setting theory. This one says that just the act of setting a clear, intentional goal is a powerful motivator all by itself.
But not all goals are created equal. For a goal to really work, it needs 3 things. First, it has to be specific. Telling someone to just do your best is useless. Tell them to increase sales by 15% this quarter. That's a target. Second, goals should be difficult. We're not motivated by slam dunks. We're motivated by a challenge we believe we can meet. And third, and this is crucial, you have to give people feedback. How are they supposed to stay motivated if they have no idea if they're even on the right track?
Our last key is probably the most direct of them all, reinforcement theory. Basically, it says that our behavior is a function of its consequences. It's simple, right? We learn to repeat actions that lead to good outcomes, and we learn to avoid actions that lead to bad ones. It's the reason we stop at red lights and show up to work on time.
And as a manager, this gives you 4 tools to shape behavior. Let's break this down. If you want to increase a good behavior, you can use positive reinforcement, like giving praise when someone does a great job. Or you could use negative reinforcement, which means removing something unpleasant, like you stop nagging an employee once they finally submit their reports on time. Now, if you want to decrease an unwanted behavior, you can use punishment, like issuing a formal warning. Or you can try extinction, where you remove whatever was rewarding the behavior in the first place, like ignoring a coworker's disruptive jokes so they stop getting the attention they were seeking.
So, there we have it. Our 4 keys: expectancy, equity, goals, and reinforcement. It sounds like a pretty complete toolkit, right? Well, there's a really big catch we have to talk about. These theories aren't as universal as they seem.
This quote really says it all. Almost all of these foundational ideas about motivation were born in the United States, developed by Americans, studying Americans. And that puts a huge asterisk on everything. It doesn't mean the theories are wrong, but it does mean we can't just assume they apply the same way to everyone, everywhere.
One of the biggest fault lines is between individualistic cultures, like the US, and collectivistic cultures, like Japan. In individualistic cultures, personal achievement and self-reliance are everything. But in collectivistic cultures, group harmony and belonging are often way more important. So, what do you think is a better motivator? An individual performance bonus or a reward for the whole team's success? The answer totally depends on the cultural context.
And we see this everywhere. In countries like Greece and Japan, where people tend to avoid uncertainty, job security can be a much bigger driver than a vague idea like self-actualization. In places like Denmark and Norway, quality of life often trumps materialism. What motivates us is deeply tied to where we come from.
Okay, so after all that, what do we do with this information? How do we take these theories, with all their nuance, and turn them into something you can actually use? Let's assemble our final practical toolkit.
The next time you have an underperforming employee, instead of just guessing, you can use these 4 theories as a diagnostic checklist. First, check expectancy. Does the employee feel like they can actually succeed? Do they have the right tools? Second, look at equity. Do they feel like they're being treated fairly? Third, review their goals. Are they clear, challenging, and are you giving feedback? And finally, fourth, analyze the reinforcement. Are you rewarding the right things and discouraging the wrong ones?
So, here's the real bottom line. Understanding these theories is the price of admission for any good manager. But in a world where your team might span multiple countries and cultures, just knowing the theories isn't enough. We have to become more adaptable, more curious, and more culturally intelligent. So the real question to leave you with is, how will you evolve your approach to meet that challenge?